"You're just a burden now, Mom." That's what my son said before shoving me out the front door, into a blizzard I almost didn't survive. I thought I raised a loving son. Instead, he secretly appraised my $1.8 million lake house, planned to sell it, and plotted to move me into a facility just to take control of my accounts. I built an $18 million empire from scratch after becoming a widow at 35, but I never imagined I'd have to fight my own family to protect it. If you've ever felt dismissed or invisible, stay. This story will show you how I froze my accounts, reclaimed my legacy, and rebuilt my family on respect, not guilt. The proof? My granddaughter left me a voicemail. "Grandma, I saw Dad with a realtor at the lake house. Something felt off." That call saved me and exposed everything. If you're a mother holding your family together with money, don't scroll. What happened to me could happen to you next. Before I tell you what happened that night, I want to know something about you. Do you usually go to sleep early or stay up late? Leave a 1 in the comments if you're a night owl like me, 2 if you're in bed before 10, or 3 if it depends on the day. I'll be checking the comments and giving a special hello to a few of you. Now let's step into my story together. I stood at the potluck, my checkbook heavy in my purse, but my family's glances said I was invisible. Was I their mother or just their bank? The Minnetonka Community Center buzzed with life on February 1st, 2024. Neighbors swapped stories over steaming hot dish and apple pie, their laughter mingling with the clink of forks. Snow dusted the windows, a Minnesota chill creeping in, mirroring the cold ache in my chest. I, Maggie Sullivan, 70 years old, had built a life of wealth and love. But tonight, I felt like a ghost in the family I'd funded. I adjusted my scarf, the wool soft against my skin, and made my way to Nathan and Lila's table. My son, 35, and his wife, 33, were the picture of suburban success. Polished, smiling, their phones out, snapping photos for their family blog. I'd written a check for Sophie and Liam's school fees, a crisp $5,000, and handed it to Nathan. His nod was quick, distracted, as he angled his phone for a better shot of Lila's apple pie. Lila murmured, "Thanks, Maggie," her eyes on the screen, not me. My heart sank, heavy as the snow outside. I'd poured my savings into Nathan's failed tech startup a decade ago, a sacrifice they never mentioned. Could my generosity be my undoing? I forced a smile, my fingers tightening around my purse. "It's a big help for the twins, right?" I said, hoping for a spark of gratitude. Nathan barely looked up. "Sure, Mom, it's great." His voice was flat, like he was checking a box. Lila swiped at her phone, posting a photo captioned, "Family night at the potluck." I wasn't in it. My throat tightened, but I swallowed hard, the chatter of neighbors drowning out my thoughts. Across the room, my daughter Clara, 38, caught my eye. She stood by the dessert table, her auburn hair catching the light, a hesitant smile on her face. Clara had always been my dreamer, but a rift lingered between us. My fault, mostly. I'd missed her 30th birthday, tied up with a business deal to secure her future, and she'd never quite forgiven me. She walked over, holding a slice of pie. "Mom, remember when you taught me to make apple pie?" she said, her voice soft, searching. I nodded, warmth flickering in my chest. "You burned the crust, but we laughed all night." Before I could say more, Nathan cut in, his voice sharp. "Mom, we need more for the twins' summer camps. They're $3,000 each." His eyes flicked to my purse, expectant. Sophie and Liam, my 12-year-old grandchildren, sat nearby, their heads bent over tablets, oblivious. Sophie, with her bright curls, loved my stories about building my financial empire. Liam, quieter, cherished my tales of restoring the lake house boat. But their expectant glances, new dance shoes, robotics kits, felt like weights. I hesitated, my fingers brushing the checkbook. Maybe skip the fancy camps? Public programs are good too. My voice was steady, but my heart raced. Nathan's jaw tightened. Lila looked up from her phone, her smile gone. "You're out of touch, Maggie," she snapped, loud enough for neighbors to glance over, their forks pausing mid-bite. "You don't get modern parenting." My cheeks burned, the room suddenly too warm. Neighbors whispered, their eyes darting to me, then away. I felt small, invisible, a matriarch reduced to a bank. Clara stepped closer, her hand grazing my arm. "Mom's just trying to help," she said, her voice shaky but firm. Nathan rolled his eyes. "She's got millions, Clara. Why make us beg?" My breath caught. I'd given them a $50,000 down payment for their house, paid for their wedding, their twins' tuition. Did it mean nothing? I glanced at my husband, Henry, 72, sitting at a corner table, sipping coffee, lost in his own world. Grief over Nathan's failures had made him distant, his once lively eyes dulled. He didn't notice my pain, and that hurt almost as much as Lila's words. I sat down, my hands trembling, and opened my purse for a tissue. A bank statement slipped out, one I hadn't seen before. My eyes scanned the numbers, a $1,000 withdrawal I didn't authorize. My pulse quickened, the paper crinkling in my grip. Who had access to my accounts? I tucked it back, my mind racing, but Lila's voice cut through. "Maggie, the twins need those camps to compete. You want them to succeed, don't you?" Her tone was sweet, but her eyes were sharp, calculating. I nodded faintly, my voice gone, the weight of their expectations pressing down. As the potluck wound down, I stood, my scarf slipping to the floor. I bent to pick it up, whispering to myself, "I built this family." My voice cracked, barely audible over the jazz music drifting from a speaker. Clara touched my shoulder, her eyes soft with guilt. "Mom, I'm sorry," she said. But Nathan and Lila were already packing up, their laughter light as if I hadn't spoken. Sophie glanced at me, her fingers pausing on her tablet, a flicker of concern in her eyes. Liam looked up too, his face thoughtful, but neither spoke. Henry sipped his coffee, oblivious. I walked to the door, my footsteps echoing on the hardwood floor. The snow's crunch outside amplified my loneliness, each step heavier than the last. I'd given them everything, money, love, a future. But tonight, I felt like a stranger in my own family. Am I their mother, or just their bank? The bank statement crinkled in my purse as I stepped into the cold. Who's dipping into my accounts? A mystery withdrawal gnawed at me. Were my sacrifices fueling betrayal? The fireplace in Nathan and Lila's Minnetonka colonial home crackled, casting a warm glow across the dining room. Snow fell softly outside, blanketing the lawn, but the brewing conflict inside chilled me more. I, Maggie Sullivan, 70, sat at their polished oak table, my fingers tracing the edge of my coffee mug. The bank statement from the potluck showing $1,000 missing burned in my mind. I'd funded Nathan's tech startup 10 years ago, a $20,000 loan he swore he'd repay. He never did. Was he scheming again? Lila, 33, stood at the head of the table, her laptop open, a PowerPoint slide glowing. Family financial plan. Her smile was too bright, her auburn hair tucked neatly behind her ears. Nathan, 35, leaned back, his arms crossed, his eyes flicking to me with expectation. My daughter Clara, 38, sat across from me, her brow furrowed, picking at her nails, a habit from our strained years after I missed her 30th birthday for a business deal. Henry, my husband, 72, slouched in his chair, staring at his coffee, lost in his usual fog of grief over Nathan's failures. The twins, Sophie and Liam, were upstairs, their tablet games buzzing faintly through the ceiling. Lila clicked to the next slide, a chart of my $18 million fortune. "Maggie, we've been thinking," she began, her voice smooth as the snow outside. "A family trust could secure Sophie and Liam's future. It's for them." My stomach twisted, her words sounding rehearsed, not caring. A trust? I'd given them a $50,000 down payment for this house, paid their twins' tuition, their vacations. Now they wanted control? I shifted in my seat, the mug warm against my palms, and said, "I already support the twins. Why a trust?" Lila's smile didn't waver, but her eyes sharpened, like a hawk spotting prey. Nathan leaned forward, his voice earnest but edged. It's for the twins if you're gone, Mom. You're not getting younger. His words stung, a reminder of my age, my vulnerability. I glanced at Clara, hoping for support. She frowned, her fingers stilling. "She's not going anywhere, Nathan," she said, her voice low but firm. My heart lifted, a flicker of our old bond, strained by my absence at her birthday. I shook my head, my scarf slipping slightly. "I've got Daniel, my advisor, handling my finances. No need for a trust." Lila's fingers paused on her laptop, her jaw tightening, a crack in her polished facade. Henry glanced up, his gray eyes cloudy, and mumbled, "Sounds complicated." His voice was barely audible over the fireplace's snap. He'd always been distant, buried in regret for Nathan's string of failed ventures, leaving me to carry the family alone. Lila's smile returned, but it was tighter, her voice sharp. "It's smarter money management, Maggie. You don't want to burden the twins' future, do you?" My chest tightened, her words a jab at my devotion. I'd built this family, poured my heart into their dreams. Did they see me or just my bank account? I pushed my mug away, the coffee suddenly bitter. "I'll think about it," I said, my voice steady but my hands trembling. Dinner ended and I offered to clear the plates, needing a moment to breathe. In the kitchen, I stacked dishes, the clink of porcelain, loud in the quiet. Lila's voice drifted from the hallway, low and hushed on her phone. "Her accounts are ready. We'll handle it." My heart stopped, the plate nearly slipping from my fingers. I pressed against the wall, my breath shallow, straining to hear. Who was she talking to? A lawyer? A bank? The fireplace's warmth felt distant, the snow's soft patter outside a stark contrast to the storm in my chest. I'd given them everything, my money, my love. Was it all a setup? Clara appeared in the doorway, her eyes soft with worry. "Mom, you okay?" she asked, her voice gentle, like when she was a girl. I nodded, forcing a smile, but my mind raced. "Just tired," I lied, my fingers brushing the bank statement in my pocket. Lila's call echoed, a warning of betrayal. Nathan joined us, his smile too wide. "Think about the trust, Mom. It's for family." His words felt hollow, his greed masked as care. I looked at Clara, her guilt palpable, wanting to bridge our gap. Henry shuffled past, silent, his coffee cup empty. I stepped into the snowy night, my scarf tight against the cold, my heart racing. The fireplace's glow faded behind me, Lila's whispered call ringing in my ears. I'd built this family, but at what cost? Did I raise them, or did they erase me? The snow crunched under my boots, each step heavier, the bank statement a weight in my pocket. Who's she plotting with? Lila's secret call chilled me more than the snow. Was my family turning against me? The Minnetonka Community Center hummed with jazz music, its soft notes weaving through the chatter of neighbors sharing grilled chicken and hot dish. Snow piled higher outside, the Minnesota winter pressing against the windows, its weight echoing the tension in my chest. I, Maggie Sullivan, 70, stood by the potluck table, my scarf loose around my neck, the memory of Lila's whispered phone call. Her accounts are ready, burning in my mind. I recalled joyful lakehouse summers with Nathan, his boyish laughter as we fished on Gull Lake. Now his greed tainted those memories. Was my legacy at risk? I scanned the room, my eyes landing on Nathan, 35, leaning against a table, his phone out, scrolling. Lila, 33, stood beside him, her smile sharp as she chatted with neighbors, her voice loud enough to carry. Clara, my daughter, 38, lingered near the dessert table, her fingers twisting a napkin, guilt etched in her face from our strained years. I'd missed her 30th birthday for a deal, a wound we hadn't healed. Henry, 72, sat in a corner, his coffee cup cradled, his eyes distant with grief over Nathan's failures. Sophie and Liam, my 12-year-old grandchildren, sat nearby, their tablets glowing, their faces expectant, new dance shoes, robotics kits, always my dime. Yet Sophie's love for my wealth-building stories and Liam's admiration for my lake house boat tales gave me hope. I approached Nathan, my hands steady despite my racing heart. "Nathan, about the twins' summer camps," I started, my voice calm. $3,000 each seems steep. Public programs are great too." He snapped his head up, his jaw tight. "Stop meddling, Mom," he said, his voice sharp, cutting through the jazz. Neighbors paused, forks hovering, eyes darting to us. My cheeks flushed, but I pressed on. "I just want what's best for them," I said, my fingers brushing my purse. The bank statements crinkle a reminder of my suspicions. Lila turned, her eyes glinting like the snow outside. "She's holding us back, Nathan," she said, her voice low but venomous, goading him. Nathan's face reddened, and he exploded. "You're just a burden now, Mom." The words hit like a slap, echoing in the room. Sophie gasped, her tablet slipping, her curls bouncing as she stared. Liam's eyes widened, his fingers frozen on his screen. Neighbors whispered, their glances sharp with pity. My heart pounded, my breath shallow, humiliation washing over me. I'd given them $50,000 for their house, paid their twins' tuition, their vacations. A burden? I froze, my hands trembling, the jazz music now a mocking hum. Clara rushed to my side, her napkin crumpled in her fist. "He's wrong, Mom. I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice thick with guilt, her eyes recalling our lost years. I nodded, unable to speak, my throat tight. Vivian Torres, 68, my best friend, appeared beside me, her warm hand on my arm. "You're stronger than this, Maggie. Fight back," she murmured, her own estrangement from her daughter fueling her fire. I glanced at Henry, his coffee cup still, his brow furrowed for the first time, a troubled look breaking his silence. But he said nothing, his grief a wall between us. I stepped back, my scarf catching on a chair, and bent to free it. Nathan's phone, left on the table, glowed with a text. "Lake house appraisal done." My breath caught, my fingers brushing the screen, the words searing into me. What was he planning with my lake house? I straightened, my heart racing, indignation burning through my hurt. I'd built this family, poured my love into their dreams, and now they called me a burden? Sophie's eyes met mine, wide with confusion, Liam's thoughtful gaze following. They mimicked their parents, but their loyalty lingered, a faint hope. I grabbed my coat, my hands shaking, and moved toward the door. Clara followed, her voice soft. "Mom, don't let him win," she said, her guilt raw. Vivian nodded, her eyes fierce. "You're not their bank, Maggie." I clutched my coat, stepping into the snow, my breath visible in the cold, indignation blazing. The jazz faded behind me, the neighbors' whispers a dull hum. I'd given them everything, but they saw only my money. Do they see me or just my money? Nathan's text glowed in my mind. What's he planning with my lake house? Nathan's text about my lake house burned in my mind. Was my family plotting to take everything? My penthouse in Minneapolis's Carlisle Tower felt like a fortress, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Mississippi River, its waters glinting under a gray February sky. Snow fell softly outside, a quiet veil that amplified my isolation. The faint aroma of coffee from my morning visit to the farmer's market lingered on my coat, a reminder of the world beyond my family's schemes. I, Maggie Sullivan, 70, stood at my desk, my fingers trembling as I clutched Nathan's text, "Lake house appraisal done." My heart raced. Memories of cozy lake house summers with Sophie and Liam, their laughter as we sailed on Gull Lake, now overshadowed by Nathan's greed. Was my sanctuary at risk? I paced the hardwood floor, my boots clicking, the river's icy shimmer reflecting my unease. Vivian Torres, my best friend, 68, arrived, her scarf dusted with snow, her eyes sharp with concern. She'd been estranged from her daughter for a decade over money, a wound that made her see my family's moves clearly. I showed her the text, my voice low. "Nathan's planning something with my lake house, Vivian." She frowned, her hands on her hips. "Lila's been calling realtors, Maggie. I heard her at the potluck, whispering on her phone. Be careful." Her words hit like a cold gust, my chest tightening. Lila, 33, had quit nursing to chase a polished lifestyle, and now she was after my lake house. I recalled her sharp smile, her calculated plans. My hurt was turning to anger. Fast. I sank into my leather chair, the creak loud in the quiet penthouse. "I need to know what's happening," I said, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. Vivian nodded, her wit cutting through my fog. "Don't let them steal your legacy, Maggie. You're tougher than their greed." I picked up my phone and dialed Daniel Kim, my financial advisor, 55, his calm voice a lifeline. "Daniel, I found a text about my lake house. Can you check my accounts?" His pause was brief, his tone professional but urgent. "Maggie, I've seen unauthorized access attempts. They're linked to Lila. She's probing your finances." My hands trembled, the phone nearly slipping. Anger surged, hot and sharp, drowning my hurt. Lila plotting behind my back, dismissing me as too old to manage my wealth? I stood, my scarf slipping to the floor, and moved to my file cabinet, its drawers heavy with years of records. "I need to see for myself," I muttered, my fingers flipping through folders. Vivian joined me, her presence steady, her own estrangement fueling her resolve. "You built this empire, Maggie. They don't get to take it." My heart pounded as I found a document I hadn't seen, a lake house appraisal dated last week, unrequested. My breath caught, the paper shaking in my hand. It listed my Brainerd Lake House, its 6 bedrooms and private shoreline valued at $1.8 million marked for sale. I gripped it, muttering, "They're after my lake house." My anger flared, a fire against the snow outside, my resolve hardening to confront them soon. I turned to Vivian, my voice fierce. "They think I'm too old to fight back." She smirked, her eyes glinting. "Show them who you are, Maggie." I nodded, the appraisal crinkling in my fist. Then I remembered Lila's purse, left at the potluck, stuffed in my bag by mistake. I unzipped it, my hands shaking, and found a realtor's business card tucked inside, its edges worn. Lila's carelessness was my gain. My mind raced. Nathan's text, Lila's calls, now this appraisal. What else were they hiding? I'd given them everything, $50,000 for their house, tuition for Sophie and Liam, vacations to flaunt on their blog. Was I their family or just their fortune? The river outside sparkled, its icy glint mirroring my growing fury. I slipped the appraisal into my pocket, my boots echoing as I grabbed my keys. Vivian followed, her voice firm. "You're not alone, Maggie. We'll find the truth." I nodded, my heart pounding, the coffee's faint scent fading as I headed to my car. The snow fell thicker now, blanketing the city, but my anger burned brighter. I'd built this family, poured my love into their dreams, only to be schemed against. The appraisal paper shook in my hand. What else are they hiding in my lake house? A secret appraisal chilled me more than the Minneapolis snow. What betrayal awaited at my lake house? The drive to my Brainerd Lake House was a blur, the snow-covered roads winding through pines, my hands tight on the wheel. I, Maggie Sullivan, 70, felt my anger simmering. Nathan's sly comments about securing the lake house, now a glaring red flag. Was he planning to strip me of everything? The log home on Gull Lake came into view, its cozy silhouette dwarfed by snow blanketing the shoreline. The fireplace crackled inside, its warmth a stark contrast to the dread pooling in my chest. Vivian Torres, 68, my best friend, sat beside me, her scarf bundled tight, her eyes fierce with loyalty. Her own estrangement from her daughter a decade ago made her see my family's schemes clearly. We stepped inside, the wooden floor creaking under our boots, the scent of pine and smoke grounding me. I clutched the realtor's card from Lila's purse, my fingers trembling. "They're after my lake house, Vivian," I said, my voice low, anger sharp. She nodded, her jaw set. They'll take everything if you don't act, Maggie. We moved to my office, a small room with a view of the frozen lake, its silence amplifying my fear. A locked desk drawer caught my eye, its brass handle glinting. Nathan's been here, I muttered, recalling his visits last summer, his eyes lingering on the property. Vivian handed me a screwdriver, her voice firm. Let's find out what he's hiding. The drawer gave way with a snap, revealing a stack of papers. My heart pounded as I sifted through them, my fingers brushing an old letter, its edges yellowed. It was from Nathan to a lawyer, dated last month, outlining a plan to sell my lake house, my $1.8 million sanctuary, for family security. My breath caught, the paper crinkling in my grip. He wants to sell it without me, I whispered, my voice shaking. Vivian's hand rested on my shoulder, her eyes blazing. He's not your son right now, Maggie. He's a thief. The words stung, but they fueled my anger, my hurt hardening into determination. The front door creaked open, and Clara, my daughter, 38, stepped inside, her coat dusted with snow. Her auburn hair was pulled back, her face etched with guilt. Guilt from our strained years when I missed her 30th birthday for a business deal. "Mom, I heard you were here," she said, her voice hesitant, her hands twisting together. I held up the letter, my eyes stinging. "Did you know about this, Clara?" Her gaze dropped, her shoulders sagging. "I overheard Nathan talking about options for the lake house," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "I should have told you, Mom. I was wrong." My chest tightened, Clara's silence a new betrayal, her guilt a mirror of my own regrets. "Why didn't you?" I asked, my voice cracking, anger and hurt colliding. Clara stepped closer, her eyes wet. "I thought he was just venting. I didn't realize—" She trailed off, her hand reaching for mine. I pulled back, the letter trembling in my hand. Vivian's voice cut through, urgent. "Maggie, read the rest. If you found out your own child was planning to lock you away, would you break from the betrayal or burn from the rage?" What I read next shattered something in me. If you're still here, drop a 6 in the comments, so I know I'm not alone in this. I scanned the letter, my heart stopping at a scribbled note. "Explore facility options for MS to secure assets." Facility options! My blood ran cold. They wanted to declare me incompetent, to lock me away in assisted living to control my wealth. "They want to lock me away!" I gasped, my voice a whisper, the fireplace's crackle mocking the storm inside me. Clara's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide. "Mom, no, I'd never let that happen." I sank into a chair, the letter falling to my lap, my hands shaking. I'd given them everything, $50,000 for their house, tuition for Sophie and Liam, endless support. Had it all been for this? To strip me of my home, my freedom? My anger surged, a fire against the snowy silence outside. Vivian knelt beside me, her voice fierce. "You're stronger than their greed, Maggie. Don't let them win." Clara nodded, her guilt raw, her voice soft. "I'm with you, Mom." Her support, hesitant but real, sparked a flicker of hope, mending our old rift. But Nathan and Lila's scheme, off-screen, loomed larger, their greed a shadow over my legacy. I stood, my boots scuffing the floor, and moved to the window, the lake's icy sheen reflecting my resolve. Did I give them everything, only to lose myself? The letter's note about facility options burned in my mind, a clue to a deeper betrayal. My phone buzzed, Sophie's voice crackling through a voicemail. "Grandma, I found something weird about the lake house." My heart leaped. My 12-year-old granddaughter, who loved my stories, knew something. I gripped the phone, the fireplace's crackle fading as my pulse raced. The snowy lake view mirrored my clarity, pushing me toward action. Sophie's voice echoed in my ears. What does my granddaughter know about their plan? Sophie's voicemail shook me. Was my granddaughter my only ally in this fight? The Minneapolis coffee shop buzzed with life, the hum of espresso machines and the sweet aroma of steamed milk wrapping around me like a warm blanket. Snowflakes clung to the windows, the February blizzard raging outside, but inside, my resolve sharpened. I, Maggie Sullivan, 70, sat at a corner table, my scarf draped over the chair, the lake house letter crinkling in my pocket. I recalled rebuilding my life after my husband's death, a strength I'd forged from scratch, widowed at 35, with a toddler and a dream. That strength surged now, a fire against the snow. Would it be enough to save my family? Vivian Torres, 68, slid into the seat across from me, her coat dusted with snow, her eyes fierce with loyalty. Her estrangement from her daughter a decade ago gave her a sharp edge, seeing through my family's schemes. I pulled out the letter, its yellowed edges trembling in my hands. Vivian, Nathan's planning to sell my lake house and lock me in a facility, I said, my voice low, anger simmering. She leaned forward, her brow furrowed. You're stronger than they know, Maggie. Fight back. Her words, sharp as the wind outside, cut through my doubts. I'd built an $18 million empire, funded Nathan's failed startup, their house, their twins' tuition. Yet they saw me as a pawn. My fingers tightened around my coffee mug, the warmth grounding my fury. Vivian's story echoed mine. Her daughter had demanded money, cut ties when refused. I lost her because I didn't act soon enough, she said, her voice thick. Don't let them steal your legacy. I nodded, my heart pounding, and dialed Daniel Kim, my financial advisor, 55, his calm expertise a lifeline. Daniel, Lila's been probing my accounts, I said, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. He paused, papers rustling over the phone. It's a clear power grab, Maggie. She's tried accessing your investment accounts. I can freeze everything, credit cards, transfers, all of it. My breath caught, the coffee shop's hum fading. Do it, I said, resolve hardening. They need to learn. Daniel's voice softened. You have the power, Maggie. The words lit a spark, my anger shifting to purpose. I sipped my coffee, the steam curling like my resolve, when my phone buzzed again. Sophie's name flashed, my 12-year-old granddaughter's voice whispering through a voicemail. Grandma, I saw Dad with a realtor at the lake house last week. It felt weird. My heart leaped. Sophie, who loved my stories of building my wealth, was watching, questioning. Her loyalty, a faint light in this storm, warmed me. I played the message again, her words cutting through the espresso's hum. Then, another recording popped up, accidentally left by Lila at the potluck. We'll move Maggie to a facility soon, her voice hissed, cold and calculated. My blood ran cold, the mug nearly slipping from my hands. A facility? To control my money? My anger flared, ablaze against the blizzard outside. I leaned back, my boots scuffing the floor, and looked at Vivian. They think I'm too old to fight, I said, my voice firm. She smirked, her eyes glinting. Show them who you are, Maggie. I nodded, my mind racing. Sophie's call, Lila's recording, the lake house letter, they were pieces of a puzzle, and I was done being their pawn. I'd confront Nathan and Lila at the next family gathering, no more dancing around their greed. My fingers brushed the letter in my pocket, its weight a reminder of their betrayal. I'd given them everything. $50,000 for their house, tuition for Sophie and Liam, endless support. Could I save my family by breaking it apart? The coffee shop's warmth felt distant as I stood, my scarf catching on the chair. Vivian followed, her voice steady. You're not alone, Maggie. We'll expose them. I nodded, my pulse racing, the snow's howl outside sharpening my focus. Sophie's voicemail replayed in my mind, her loyalty a lifeline. I grabbed my coat, the steam from my coffee fading, my resolve burning brighter. Lila's recording echoed in my ears, a chilling promise of their plan. I stepped toward the door, the blizzard's roar calling me to action. How far will they go to control me? Lila's recording about a facility seared my soul. Could I confront my family without losing them forever? The candlelit dinner table in Nathan and Lila's Minnetonka colonial home glowed warmly, but the blizzard winds howling outside rattled the windows, mirroring the storm in my chest. I, Maggie Sullivan, 70, stood at the threshold, my scarf loose, the lake house letter crinkling in my pocket. I recalled Nathan's childhood, his bright eyes as I funded his dreams, a lemonade stand, a guitar, a doomed tech startup. Those dreams were now twisted into greed, his betrayal a knife in my heart. Would my love for him survive this? I adjusted my coat, my fingers trembling, and stepped inside, ready to face the family I'd funded. Nathan, 35, sat at the table, his phone glowing, his jaw tight with expectation. Lila, 33, arranged plates, her smile sharp, her eyes calculating. She'd quit nursing to chase a blog-perfect life, and now she wanted my wealth. Clara, my daughter, 38, hovered near the kitchen, her hands twisting, guilt etched in her face from our rift when I missed her 30th birthday for work. Henry, 72, slumped in a chair, his coffee cup steady, his eyes clouded with grief over Nathan's failures. Sophie and Liam, my 12-year-old grandchildren, sat nearby, their tablets dim, their faces torn. Sophie's love for my wealth-building stories and Liam's admiration for my lake house boat tales, clashing with their parents' dismissal. I clutched the letter, my voice steady despite my pounding heart. "Nathan, you're selling my lake house behind my back." I held up the paper, its yellowed edges stark in the candlelight. Nathan's eyes widened, then narrowed. "It's for Sophie and Liam's future, Mom," he snapped, his voice loud, defensive. Lila set a plate down hard, the clink sharp. "You're selfish, Maggie, hoarding your wealth," she said, her tone venomous, goading him. My chest tightened, their words a fresh wound. I'd given them $50,000 for this house, paid their twins' tuition, their vacations. Selfish? Clara stepped forward, her voice shaking. "She's our mother, not your bank." Her support, raw with guilt, warmed me, mending our old rift. Nathan stood, his chair scraping the floor, and grabbed my recipe book. A cherished gift from my own mother, its pages worn with her handwritten notes. "You don't get today's world, Mom," he snarled, tearing pages and tossing them into the fireplace. The paper curled, flames licking my mother's apple pie recipe, the smoke stinging my eyes. I gasped, my hands trembling, the room spinning. Sophie's tablet slipped, her curls bouncing as she whispered, "Dad, stop." Liam's eyes widened, his fingers frozen. Neighbors' lights flickered outside, glimpses of their scheme now public. My anger surged, indignation drowning my hurt, the candle's glow mocking Nathan's cruelty. Henry stirred, his coffee cup clattering. "Enough, Nathan," he murmured, his voice shaky, his grief cracking for the first time. Vivian Torres, 68, my best friend, appeared beside me, her hand on my arm. "You're stronger than their greed, Maggie," she whispered, her own estrangement fueling her fire. Sophie clutched a drawing, her eyes wide, confusion warring with loyalty. I noticed it, a sketch of my lake house. "For sale," scribbled out in her childish scrawl. My breath caught. Did Sophie know more? My resolve hardened, a fire against the blizzard outside. I'd confront them fully, no more tiptoeing around their entitlement. Clara pulled me aside, her eyes wet. "He's wrong, Mom." "I'm sorry," she said, her guilt raw, her hand warm on mine. I nodded, my throat tight, but my anger burned brighter. Vivian's voice was firm. "You're not their pawn, Maggie. Fight back." I looked at Sophie, her drawing trembling in her hands, Liam's gaze steady beside her. They mimicked their parents, but their loyalty lingered, a faint hope. Nathan's phone, left on the table, buzzed with notifications, his greed driven by social media pressures to flaunt success. I'd given them everything, my money, my love. Could I save them by letting them fall? I grabbed my coat, my boots scuffing the floor, and moved to the door. Clara followed, her voice soft. "Don't let them win, Mom." Henry's troubled eyes met mine, a spark of awareness breaking through. The fireplace's embers faded, the blizzard's howl louder outside. My breath caught as I stepped into the snowy night. Sophie's drawing flashing in my mind, it scribbled out, "For sale," a clue to their plan. My indignation blazed, my resolve glowing brighter. Do they see me, or just my money? Sophie's drawing trembled in my memory. What does my granddaughter know about their plan? Sophie's drawing hinted at secrets. Would my family's next move break me completely? The blizzard roared outside Nathan and Lila's Minnetonka colonial home, snow burying the driveway, the howling wind echoing the storm in my heart. I, Maggie Sullivan, 70, stood in their living room, my scarf loose, the lake house letter trembling in my hand. I recalled summers with Sophie and Liam, their laughter as we sailed on Gull Lake, now drowned by Nathan's greed. Would this betrayal cost me everything? The candlelit room glowed, but the warmth felt hollow. Neighbors' lights flickering through the storm, their distant glow a silent witness to the drama unfolding. Nathan, 35, lounged on the couch, his phone glowing, his eyes sharp with expectation. Lila, 33, paced near the fireplace, her auburn hair catching the light, her smile tight and calculated. She'd traded nursing for a blog-perfect life, and now she wanted my wealth. Clara, my daughter, 38, stood by the window, her hands twisting, guilt etched in her face from our rift when I missed her 30th birthday for a deal. Henry, 72, sat at the table, his coffee cup steady, his eyes stirring with concern, his grief over Nathan's failures cracking. Sophie and Liam, 12, huddled on the stairs, their tablets dim, their faces torn. Sophie's love for my stories and Liam's admiration for my lake house boat tales clashing with their parents' cruelty. I held up the letter, my voice steady despite my pounding heart. "You plan to sell my lake house and lock me away," I demanded, the paper shaking, its words about facility options searing my mind. Nathan's jaw tightened, his voice defensive. "It's for Sophie and Liam's future, Mom." "Yes." Lila stopped pacing, her eyes glinting like the snow outside. "Be family or leave, Maggie," she said, her ultimatum sharp, cutting through the wind's howl. My chest tightened, her words a blade. I'd given them $50,000 for this house, paid their twins' tuition, their vacations. Family? I was their bank. Clara stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Mom's not going anywhere." Her support, raw with guilt, warmed me, mending our old wound. Nathan stood, his chair scraping. "We need your help, Mom," he pleaded, his tone desperate, fear of losing my money flashing in his eyes. I squared my shoulders, my scarf slipping. "You need my money, not me," I retorted, my voice rising, anger fueling my resolve. Lila's face twisted, her patience snapping. "You're holding us back, Maggie," she snarled, stepping closer, her hand shoving my shoulder toward the door. The push was sharp, my balance faltering, the room spinning. Sophie gasped from the stairs. "Mom, stop!" Liam's tablet fell, his voice cracking. "Dad, don't let her!" Lila's hand lingered, her eyes cold. "Get out!" she hissed, her voice low but venomous. I stumbled toward the door, my boots scuffing, the letter crumpling in my fist. She swung the door open, the blizzard's icy blast hitting my face, and slammed it shut, locking it with a click. Through the window, she shouted, "Stay out!" Her words echoed, the snow swirling around me, neighbors' lights catching my silhouette. Sophie cried, "Grandma, no!" her fists banging the glass. Liam joined her, his voice muffled, "Let her in!" Henry stood frozen, his coffee cup clattering, his eyes wide with shock, finally seeing my pain. Neighbors peered from across the street, their curtains twitching, the public humiliation searing my soul. My hands shook, the cold biting my fingers, my coat thin against the wind. I reached into my pocket, desperate for warmth, and found a crumpled note from Lila's purse, missed from the potluck, "Meet lawyer tomorrow." My breath clouded in the blizzard, the note's words a spark in my fury. They'd planned to sell my lake house, to lock me away, and now they'd cast me out in a storm. My resolve hardened, a fire against the snow. I'd built this family, poured my love into their dreams, only to be shoved out like trash. Did I build this family, only to be cast out? Sophie's cries echoed through the glass, her loyalty a faint light. Liam's desperate bangs stirred my heart, their love clashing with their parents' cruelty. Clara's face pressed against the window, her eyes wet, torn between family and me. Henry's stunned gaze met mine, his silence breaking, a spark of regret in his eyes. Lila's shadow moved inside, Nathan's voice pleading, "Lila, let her in!" But the door stayed locked, their greed peaking in this cruel act. I stumbled to my car, my boots sinking in snow, the note crinkling in my frozen fingers. My defiance blazed, a plan forming to turn their betrayal against them. The note crinkles in my frozen fingers. Will I turn their betrayal against them? Lila's note burned colder than the blizzard. Could I torch their lies and reclaim my life? My penthouse in Minneapolis's Carlisle Tower wrapped me in warmth, its elegant walls a stark contrast to the February snow crunching under my boots from that perilous drive. The Mississippi River glimmered below, its icy sheen reflecting my resolve. I, Maggie Sullivan, 70, stood by the fireplace, its crackle fierce with purpose, my frostbitten fingers trembling as I clutched Lila's note. Meet lawyer tomorrow. I recalled building my $18 million empire from nothing, a widow at 35 with a toddler and a dream. That strength surged now, a fire against their greed. Would it save me from my family's betrayal? I sank into my leather chair, the creak loud in the quiet, my scarf slipping to the floor. Lila's shove, her cruel words, "You're holding us back!" And the locked door in the blizzard replayed in my mind, each moment a stab. I'd given Nathan and Lila $50,000 for their house, paid Sophie and Liam's tuition, funded their polished lifestyle. And they'd cast me out? My anger hardened into resolve, a vow to reclaim my life. I dialed Vivian Torres, 68, my best friend, her voice a lifeline. "Vivian, they locked me out. I'm frostbitten." Her gasp crackled through the phone. "I'm coming, Maggie." Vivian burst through the door, her coat dusted with snow, her eyes blazing. Her estrangement from her daughter a decade ago fueled her fury. She knelt beside me, her hands gentle on my reddened fingers. "They could have killed you, Maggie," she said, her voice thick, snapping photos of my injuries with her phone. "You're stronger than their greed. Fight back." Her words, sharp as the wind outside, lit a spark. I pulled out the lake house letter and Lila's note, my hands shaking. "They're selling my lake house and planning to lock me in a facility," I said, my voice steady despite the pain in my chest. Vivian's jaw tightened. "They're thieves, Maggie. Stop them." I called Daniel Kim, my financial advisor, 55, his calm expertise a beacon. "Daniel, I've got proof," I said, my voice firm, holding up the letter and note. "Nathan's selling my lake house to fund an assisted living scheme." Daniel's pause was brief, papers rustling. "It's a power grab, Maggie. Lila's been probing your accounts. I can freeze everything. Credit cards, transfers, all of it." My breath caught, the fireplace's crackle urging me on. "Do it," I said, resolve peaking. "They need to learn." Daniel's voice softened. "Your power's back, Maggie." The words hit like a spark, my empowerment rising, the river's glimmer outside mirroring my clarity. I stood, my boots scuffing the hardwood, and moved to the fireplace. My recipe book, a gift from my mother, lay on the table, its pages already torn by Nathan's rage. I pulled out the ones with lake house photos, summers with Sophie and Liam, their laughter frozen in time, and fed them to the flames. "No more enabling," I whispered, the paper curling, smoke stinging my eyes. The act was symbolic, a severing of their hold, my resolve blazing brighter than the fire. The doorbell rang, and Clara, my daughter, 38, stepped inside, her face wet with tears, guilt etched deep from our rift when I missed her 30th birthday. "I failed you, Mom," she said, her voice breaking. "I knew Nathan was planning something, but I didn't stop him." My heart ached, but her loyalty warmed me. "You're here now," I said, my hand squeezing hers, mending our bond. My phone buzzed, Nathan's voicemail cutting through the crackle. "The accounts are frozen, Mom. Fix this." His panic was raw, his entitlement clear, blaming me for their greed. I played it for Vivian and Clara, my lips tight. "You forced us to act, Mom," he said, his words a final stab, fueling my resolve. Did they think I'd let them erase me forever? Vivian's eyes flashed. "They're desperate now, Maggie. You've got them." Clara nodded, her tears falling. "I'm with you, Mom." Their support, fierce and sincere, anchored me, the fireplace's glow warming my face as my empowerment surged. I paced to the window, the Mississippi's shimmer a beacon of strength. Nathan and Lila's desperation was off-screen, their financial world collapsing, mortgage payments failing, Sophie and Liam's activities canceled. I'd given them everything, built their lives with my love and money, only to be locked out in a storm. The note, the letter, Nathan's voicemail, they were proof of their betrayal, a scheme to sell my lake house and declare me incompetent. My fingers brushed the burned edges of the recipe book, the smoke lingering. I was done being their bank. The fireplace's flames danced, my empowerment rising like the heat, Nathan's panicked voice echoing in my ears. How will they survive without my money? Nathan's panicked voicemail rang in my ears. Would their world crumble without my money? The sterile Minneapolis mediation office buzzed with fluorescent lights, their stark glow a sharp contrast to the melting snow outside. The thawing city mirrored the cautious hope flickering in my chest. I, Maggie Sullivan, 70, sat at a long table, my scarf folded neatly beside me, the faint scent of coffee from a nearby break room grounding me. Sophie's tearful cry during the lockout, her fists banging the glass as Lila shoved me out, echoed in my mind, a hint of reconciliation. Could my family learn from their mistakes? My resolve, forged in that blizzard, now bloomed into liberation, my hands steady as I faced them. Nathan, 35, slouched across from me, his face pale, his eyes darting. The frozen accounts had hit hard, mortgage payments failing, Sophie and Liam's activities canceled. Lila, 33, sat rigid, her auburn hair pulled tight, her eyes glinting with anger, still scheming to salvage control. Clara, my daughter, 38, sat beside me, her hands clasped, guilt from our rift. When I missed her 30th birthday for a deal, etched in her frown, Henry, 72, leaned forward, his coffee cup untouched, his eyes clear for the first time, regret stirring as he saw my pain. Sophie and Liam, 12, huddled at the table's end, their faces shaken, their love for my stories and lake house tales clashing with their parents' greed. Daniel Kim, 55, my financial advisor, stood by the door, his calm presence ensuring my financial safeguards. Lila leaned forward, her voice sharp. "You're cruel, Maggie, hurting the twins," she snapped, her words slicing through the room's hum. "Their dance and robotics programs are gone because of you." My chest tightened, her accusation a twist of the knife. I'd funded their polished lifestyle, their blog-worthy vacations, only to be locked out in a blizzard. I squared my shoulders, my voice steady. "You hurt yourselves by using me," I said, my eyes locked on hers. Nathan shifted, his voice desperate. "You forced us to act, Mom," he said, blaming me for their greed, his entitlement raw. My heart pounded, indignation flaring, the audience's outrage echoing my own at their audacity. Daniel stepped forward, his briefcase clicking open. "Maggie's accounts are frozen," he said, his tone calm but firm, sliding legal orders across the table. "Nathan, Lila, you're barred from access." Clara nodded, her voice soft but resolute. "Mom's right. You went too far." Her support, born of guilt, warmed me, mending our old wound. Nathan's eyes widened, his hands gripping the table, desperation peaking as their lifestyle collapsed. Lila glared, her fingers tapping, her strategy crumbling but defiance lingering. I leaned back, my scarf brushing my arm, liberation rising. I'd built this family, not their bank account, and now they'd face the truth. Sophie's voice broke the silence, a whisper from the table's end. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I didn't know," she said, her curls falling over her eyes, wet with tears. Liam added, his voice steady, "We don't need your money, Grandma." Their loyalty, rooted in our lake house summers, shone through, a beacon of hope. My throat tightened, their remorse a balm to my wounds. Henry cleared his throat, his voice shaky but clear. "Maggie, I see your strength now," he said, his eyes meeting mine, regret for his career-driven distance breaking through. I nodded, my heart softening, his awakening a spark of renewal. I reached for my purse, my fingers brushing an old letter from Henry, tucked away years ago, apologizing for his distance during our early marriage. "I let work come first, Maggie," it read, his handwriting shaky. My breath caught, the paper trembling in my hand, a micro twist of his regret mirroring my liberation. I'd carried this family alone, funded their dreams, only to be cast out. Can they earn my love without my money? Nathan's defiance faltered, his shoulders slumping, early remorse cracking through. Lila's glare softened, a hint of pragmatism surfacing. Clara's hand grazed mine, her loyalty solid, while Sophie and Liam's words echoed, promising a new bond. The mediation room's hum faded as I stood, my boots scuffing the linoleum. Daniel's nod was firm, his support ensuring my control. Vivian's words from the penthouse rang in my mind. "You're stronger than their greed," fueling my triumph. The melting snow outside glistened, a thaw in my heart, but my boundaries held firm. I'd frozen their accounts, exposed their dependency, and now they faced the fallout. Henry's letter trembled in my hand, his words a faint hope. Will he stand by me fully now? Henry's letter sparked a flicker of hope. Could my family rebuild on respect, not greed? The Minnetonka Park was dusted with late February snow, sunlight breaking through clouds, casting a soft glow over families sledding nearby. Their laughter echoed my cautious optimism, the scent of grilled chicken from a barbecue wafting through the air. I, Maggie Sullivan, 70, sat on a bench, my scarf loose, Henry's old letter, apologizing for his distance during our early marriage, tucked in my coat. I recalled his support when I started my business, a bond we'd lost to his grief over Nathan's failures. Could we rediscover it now? My liberation, forged in the blizzard's aftermath, warmed me, my hands steady as I faced a new family foundation. In the mediation office earlier, Nathan, 35, had slouched, his face drawn, the frozen accounts hitting hard. Mortgage payments failed, Sophie and Liam's activities canceled. Lila, 33, sat rigid, her auburn hair tight in a bun, her eyes flashing anger but hinting at pragmatism. Clara, my daughter, 38, sat beside me, her hands clasped, her guilt over our rift, when I missed her 30th birthday for a deal, softening into loyalty. Henry, 72, leaned forward, his eyes clear, regret stirring as he saw my strength. Sophie and Liam, 12, stood nearby, their faces respectful, their love for my stories and lake house tales shining through their parents' greed. Nathan's voice broke the mediation's hum, his tone defensive. "We took you for granted, Mom," he said, his eyes downcast, but he added, "We only wanted the best for the twins." His lingering justification stung, a shadow of his greed, evoking my frustration. Lila grumbled, "We'll make it without you." her voice sharp but pragmatic, her nursing job applications a sign of change. My heart pounded, their words clashing with my boundaries. I leaned forward, my voice firm. "You hurt yourselves by using me," I said, my eyes locked on Nathan's. "No more." The audience's frustration mirrored mine, but hope flickered at their cracks of remorse. Daniel Kim, 55, my advisor, slid legal orders across the table, his tone calm. "Nathan, Lila, you're barred from Maggie's accounts." Clara nodded, her voice steady. "Mom's right. You went too far." Her loyalty, born of guilt, warmed me, mending our old wound. Henry cleared his throat, his voice strong for the first time. "I was blind, Maggie. You carried us all," he said, his eyes meeting mine. Regret for his career-driven distance breaking through. My throat tightened, his awakening a spark of renewal. I stood, my scarf brushing my arm, liberation rising as their empire of greed crumbled. We moved to the park, the mediation's tension fading, the sledding family's laughter a backdrop. I handed Sophie and Liam educational books, math for Liam, art for Sophie, my voice soft but firm. "Earn your own future," I said, my hands steady. Sophie hugged me, her curls brushing my cheek. "We love you, Grandma," she whispered, her eyes wet. Liam nodded, his voice earnest. "We'll make you proud." Their respect, rooted in our lake house summers, shone bright, promising a stronger bond. My heart swelled, their growth a balm to my wounds. I reached into my purse, my fingers brushing Sophie's journal, left at the penthouse after a visit. A micro twist caught my eye, an entry praising my strength. "Grandma's tougher than anyone." My breath caught, her words a testament to our bond, her loyalty a beacon. Is family love, or just loyalty to wealth? Nathan's remorse grew, his shoulders slumping as he spoke. "I'm sorry, Mom, I'll work harder," he said, his real estate hustle showing promise. Lila's glare softened, her pragmatism surfacing. "I'm applying for nursing jobs," she admitted, grudgingly accountable. Clara hugged me, her voice warm. "I should have seen your strength sooner, Mom." Sophie's voicemail, whispering about the lake house, lingers in my heart, a spark of loyalty amid my family's betrayal. I, Maggie Sullivan, learned that love doesn't mean giving everything, but setting boundaries to nurture respect. In life, family bonds thrive when we see each other's worth, not just our wallets, and forgiveness can bloom when truth clears the way. My journey taught me that standing firm protects the heart, letting love find its way back through honesty. If we listen and hold space for one another, we rebuild stronger. If this story touched you, please share your thoughts in the comments or follow for more stories of family and resilience.